Okay, guys, here we go. Pretty good Raw episode last night leading into WrestleMania. I want to get you guys' opinions on everything that went on. Starting off with it could just be me. This is one of the things I'm curious to hear what you have to say about, is the Punk, Rollins, and McIntyre spot. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was as good as the internet is generally reacting to it right now. I mean, you see the comments around on social media on WWE's own video, highlighting that whole segment and everything, and people are going nuts that it was the best segment they've ever seen, and everybody was on point, and I thought it was good. I just didn't think it was anywhere near that good. Is that just me? Do you guys agree with the sentiment that's been going around that it was amazing and maybe I'm just not seeing it? Or is it because there's a lot of Punk fans out there and they finally got to see him again, and so you get caught up in that glow? Hey, Lobster. I just there were some good lines. I thought actually the one that got the most visceral response from me was Drew's line. What was it to Punk? It was pretty good. The straight edge life. You don't drink, you don't do drugs, and yet you're always in rehab. That was pretty solid. I mean, Punk had some good shots too. It's just none of it stood out to me the way it seemed to so many other people. Now, on the other hand, the whole segment with The Rock and Cody, I was glad to see them bring back that type of intensity, that little bit of violence to everything. I was really shocked to see Cody juicing like that. And the F-bombs that were dropped and everything surprised me too. But I like seeing that edge. And as I've always said, the thing with Blood is it's really good at helping you tell a story, but you can easily overdo it. There's got to be a reason for it. And I think that segment last night was perfect in helping to get that over. I mean, that was stark. We haven't seen that in a long time, so it was shocking. And, we're building towards something that has become really, really personal between the families. And that was a great place to bring something like that back. Lobster says, I thought that it was a super well-rounded episode. Something felt slightly edgier than usual, which was good to see. Oh, yeah. Well, definitely, as I said, with Cody bleeding away like that and the language that was used. And then, of course, there was the really stiff punch from Becky to Dom. That, holy shit, she jacked him. Now, I don't know if she landed that harder than she meant, and it's entirely possible too that was a work, and Dom said, hey, hit me with it, punch me, because it'll go viral, and that's exactly what it did. So I don't know what took place there. That was a pretty good freaking punch. Galang says, absolutely cinema. Yeah, there was a lot of good moments, but that whole Rock and Cody thing, really, wow. That was a shocker. Somebody had brought up this was, I'm not the one who even thought about this, but I saw it brought up online, and it made sense to me. Isn't it odd, though, that with all this lead into WrestleMania, it's The Rock that's carrying the ball as far as getting things over? And now in the biggest moment we've had so far with the lead-in, Roman wasn't even part of it. The champ was not even part of that segment. And somebody pointed out, does that kind of make Roman look weak as champion going in here? That Rock is doing all the heavy lifting and getting the the match over. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Lobster says Andrade versus Vinci stood out to me. I love that match. Super hard hitting. You know what? I was in and out, and I missed most of it. I watched clips on WWE's channel. I got to watch that whole thing because we can go back and watch them, of course, on the app in entirety. Because I was going in and out doing different things all night last night. As a matter of fact, I was heading into the shower right as the Punk segment came on and put it off to to make sure I saw that. Semery says, yeah, I think WWE is going to start getting good again. This is going to be the first year my daughter has actually gotten into it. Her first Mania viewing, going to be a good one. I think they're doing a phenomenal job lately. For a long time, I told you guys I had my own little issues with watching wrestling just because I couldn't be involved in it anymore, so on and so forth. And I've gotten past that, but there were when I would watch, there were some real down times for the writing. They've had phenomenal wrestlers, phenomenal athletes all along, but some of the writing was bad, and the storylines, I think, are much better now. And the way they shifted gears on this WrestleMania, with it initially going to be The Rock versus Roman, and them actually paying attention to what the fans were saying and again, shifting gears on it, I think it's been remarkably well done. They've got something really good going here. Isaiah says 10 out of 10, best Raw of all time. Oh, I don't know that I would say best Raw of all time. I think it was good. TSP Vegeta said, Roman's been looking weak, needing his bloodline to win every match. Can't get much weaker. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? It just tends to make you think more and more so that Roman's not leaving WrestleMania with the strap, huh? Again, Rock doing all the heavy lifting on promotion, and as was just pointed out, him needing assistance in his matches. He's certainly not appearing right now as a dominant champion. Watching Rock destroy Cody was horrifying, and I loved it. Yeah, buddy. I mean, that was a shocker. And when we saw Cody bleeding, that really struck me. Plus, you got Rock throwing F-bombs out there and everything. We definitely dipped our toes back into the Attitude Era. Now, I don't know if that's the direction they're going to continue with it. I'm hoping so. I really enjoyed that. I liked it a lot. Cyber Larry says Punk got real comfy on the mic. Yeah, I thought it was good. It could just be me because it seems like everybody is just singing the praises of that Punk, Rollins, McIntyre, spot. And I thought it was good, but it didn't really stand out to me that much. Maybe I need to go back and watch it. Maybe I missed some of the things that were said. It just seemed like, judging on crowd reaction, it seemed like the biggest pops they got from the crowd on the individual lines they were saying were just whenever they would mention Chicago. But again, not hating on it, just didn't think it was as good as everybody else seems to think it was. Lion Prowl Gaming says, do you think Paul Levesque has anything to do with this sway in writing? Sure, I think so. I think Triple H has proven to be a really solid driving force in creating storylines. I think he has some great ideas. William says, I just got here, but did you notice the WWE production truck in the background outside with Cena and Austin on it? I did. Easter eggs for WrestleMania. I did. I saw the two of them out there. You couldn't help but notice. And yeah, that was cool though. That was cool. Brit Pro Gamer says, if this is the way they're booking Cody to look, being beaten down by the Rock, etc., then there's no way he's losing at Mania, right? Well, that's certainly how, that's how it would lead you to think. And the one thing about wrestling in general, WWE in specific, when you can swerve, you keep people intrigued. So that's my only concern with that is, as you said, with Cody taking this horrific beating and the way he's been beaten down throughout this lead up, you would think it's got to pay off in a win for him. But that's where you start to hesitate. It's like, or are they just setting this up so we think that Cody can't possibly lose and all this? I don't know. I think first night the bloodline definitely goes over. I think they win the first night. And I'm not sure exactly how they're going to unfold that second night, but I do think they win night one. Renzo says, "Man, I love this Monday Night Raw." Yeah, like I say, I thought it was really good. I didn't see the same impact in the Rollins Punk McIntyre segment that others did. Grimes says, "LOL, yeah, nothing screams weak like a guy who has held the belt 1,300 plus days. I say, screw it, give him slightly over 4 more years and let him beat Bruno Sammartino's 2,800 days, 7+ year record." The thing of it is, first of all, I don't think the business is set up that way anymore, to have somebody hold on for that long. And his title reign is already taking so much heat on social media and in, pro wrestling chat circles because of the limited number of defenses he's had. So, yeah, I don't think any of that would be good for business. He's in this time he's had the belt, he's defended it as many times as the old school guys would defend in the course of 3-4 months. Lobster says, "Curtis, how do you feel about WrestleMania being split into 2 nights as opposed to one event?" Oh, I think that's much better. I think they did that for all the right reasons. They were trying to squeeze too much into one night. I think it's much better. And, they're writing well to utilize that too. Again, with having the whole thing with the bloodline on night 1 and how that relates to what happens in night 2. I think that's excellent. Jack Harper says, "I think Cody Rock's segment was awesome." I agree. I think the Jimmy angle is only being held up while the bloodline is a thing. Roman has barely broken the 45 mark for number of defenses. Yeah, that's why I say I don't think it would be a good idea to have his reign continue on for an extended period. But I've said that all along. And I always preface it by saying I like Roman Reigns a lot. I think he's phenomenal in the ring. And I think he's become very good on the mic when he started out really rough on the mic. So, I've got nothing but praise for him. Except that to me, his title reign has run its course. I want to see somebody else with the belt. Brit Pro Gamer says, "Also the same with Punk. I don't know why, but I get the feeling that his injury isn't as bad as they're letting on. Looks like he can move it pretty well. I reckon he is swerving Seth and Drew." You think? I don't know. That it's entirely possible. I don't know. Yeah, or as you say, he might be cleared enough to do a run and have a hand or an elbow in on that match. That would certainly help to build the heat going forward. Grimes says, "Curtis, who do you got Seth versus Drew, and what role do you think Punk will play in their match?" I'm just not sure. They're doing a good job with that because I can see so many different things happening. Initially, yeah, I'm still leaning that way. If I had to guess, I think Seth retains. I think surprisingly Seth is going to retain. But it's hard to say because of what we were just talking about with Punk and how much he'll be involved. Because a lot of it depends on if his injury is being exaggerated a little for the storyline and if he can do more than we think. If he really is entirely off limits to getting involved physically, then there's only so much effect he can have. Cyber Lariat says nobody needs to defeat Gunther. He'll be the first ever post-mortem champion unless you count Taker. I told you guys, it took me a long time to come around on Gunther, but I've really come to appreciate him. And you certainly can't say he doesn't keep a heavy schedule. I mean, and the guy has, his personality for me is still a little bland. But man, inside the ring, he can work. You think so? My name is not Earl says Punk's definitely getting physically involved in the Rollins-McIntyre match. It could very well be. I mean, WWE has to abide by the doctor's take on things. I mean, that they use the term medically cleared all the time and have for years in wrestling, and a lot of times it's just a work. But legitimately, if doctors are saying he can't go, WWE is not going to be stupid enough to put him in there and risk the lawsuits and whatever else. But you guys could be right. They could be working exactly how injured Punk is. Officially retire the IC belt once he retires too. I don't think that'd be a good idea, Larry. Just because it's still a good belt to have around. It really does. It serves a good purpose. I like having that belt there. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Devin says Seth is hurt right now. Plus, Seth is taking a break after Mania. If he's taking a break after Mania, then that changes everything. Then definitely you think Drew takes the belt. Yeah, I didn't know that. Lobster says, I get what you mean about the stoicism, but I feel like it just works for him. Gunther is phenomenal, and I feel his character fits his style of wrestling. Yeah, I mean, he is, you're right, he is a stoic type. But it's just tough to really keep that over in the world of professional wrestling. I would just like to see him have an extra added something to his personality. But again, the way he works in the ring, he's amazing. Re11 says, are you team Punk, Rollins, or McIntyre? As far as favorite wrestlers within there, probably McIntyre. I've been on Drew McIntyre's bandwagon for a while. I enjoy the guy. I like watching him work. If you're asking who I would most prefer to win, just in general, it would be Drew. Austin says, who is beating Gunther for the title? And what if Rock and Roman win? Would you be mad? Not mad. I mean, see, with wrestling, I just want to be entertained. If they tell a good story and having them win, no, I'm not going to be mad. As I said, I feel like it's time for Roman to drop the belt. So if not at Mania, I think it should be soon after. But there's certainly situations where I could see them writing something so strong that it makes sense for him to hold on to the belt. My name is not Earl says, has Gunther wrestled Bobby Lashley? I don't think so. I don't think I've seen that. That would be fun. That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. That's a good matchup of styles right there. And Gamer says, is it too late to add Gable to IC title match and make it a triple threat? Excuse me, I really thought that was the direction they were going to go. I would love to see, as I know a lot of you guys have told me the same thing, I would love to see Chad Gable get some more push. He is really, really fun to watch. Phenomenal athlete. He's definitely entertaining on the mic. You know, even with this silly catchphrases, with the shush and everything, and thank you. I mean, some of it's just silliness, but it's silliness that works. Grimes says, yeah, Curtis, they haven't talked about it much, but Seth did a promo talking about his bad back months ago and has been working injured/hurt and desperately needs surgery soon. Oh, see, I didn't know that. If that's the case, then you obviously have to lean towards him dropping the belt at Mania to Drew. And as I said, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with that because I'm a big Drew McIntyre fan. Dragunov can beat Gunther? Yeah, that would be good. Dawson Hugh John McQueen says, what would be funny if Damian Priest cashes in like Rollins did to screw Drew before he wins and finally get rid of the briefcase? I keep forgetting that he's still holding on to the Money in the Bank. That's right. I had forgotten all about that. That could be interesting, that whole angle, huh? Yeah, I did not even think about the Money in the Bank still being out there. Yeah. Wow, that'll be interesting to see if that plays a factor in here. I mean, they've had him holding on to that briefcase for how long now? How many months? It might have been with WrestleMania as the end all for it right from the beginning. That I didn't think about that. Jack Harper says Curtis versus Bray Wyatt would have been awesome had you been wrestling now and at the national level. Yeah, it would be an honor to work somebody like him. Are you going to watch this documentary coming Monday? I want to. I don't know when I'll get to see it, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it at some point. I was a big fan, so yeah, absolutely. My name is not Earl says I'm calling it now. Drew and Punk's SummerSlam World Heavyweight Championship. I think that's a distinct possibility. Well, they gotta have Punk primed for a run with the belt, don't you guys think? With a belt, with a major belt, once he gets back fully, no? Because I would think he was primed for, right from when he came back. I would think that was the direction they were pushing things. Senior Money in the Bank, baby. Yeah, I did. I completely forgot about that. That the briefcase is still out there. That's interesting. Omega says, honestly, I like Drew, but I have little to no interest in Drew as world champ. I have to say, if he wins it, it's going to be interesting to see how he does with it. Because in my opinion, the weakest part of Drew's game is on the mic. Now he's another one that's gotten way better, but it's still not his forte. And when you're a champion, when you're one of the top champions, you really got to be able to be solid with a promo. So yeah, it would be interesting to see, but I would love to see him give it a go. Austin says, what if CM Punk wanted to be your tag team partner? Would you accept? Listen, of course. You would never turn down an opportunity to work with somebody who can go like that in the ring. Great Amita says the PG era is now dead. Long live the Renaissance era. That shocked me. I did not see that coming at all. That kind of a bloodletting and everything. That was, and again, I think it was perfectly positioned. If you were gonna bring blood back into the mix, you couldn't have put it in a better spot. Rock did a good job too. Did you notice as when he threw Cody up against the trailer or the truck or whatever it was, and Cody had juice. He immediately made sure the camera had switched right over to him to make sure Cody could do what he needed to do. Grimes says, do you, Curtis, like Punk, listen to the Drive-Thru and or the Experience Corners podcast? I don't listen to any podcast just because I just don't have time. When I do catch podcasts, it's rarely as they're broadcast, and it's usually in clips because everybody, all the podcasters I enjoy, including Cornette, are they post clips of them online, and that's generally what I'll hear. I just don't have time to sit down and listen to entire pods. Patrick says it wasn't supposed to be Drew as world champ. It made sense that Punk would have won Chamber and beat Rollins, and Drew being Punk's first rival. Yeah, I figured they probably had Punk lined up and ready to go. That's what I thought anyway. I don't know about this one. Brit Pro Gamer says, I know it's off topic, but the whole MJF being removed from roster and AEW shop, is it a work? I don't know. I didn't hear about that one. They took him off all their paraphernalia? I don't know. I wouldn't even have a guess. Omega Falcon says all we need is Austin to show up and stun The Rock. Yeah, and let Rock sell the hell out of another stunner just for old time's sake. You're right. Red Wolf says, anyone else disappointed The Rock is in a tag match? I get the purpose, but for someone who is so iconic and so close to the end of wrestling, tag is a bit lame. Felt the same way about Sting's last match. Well, I don't think so, Wolf, only because you got to remember, Rock's in a tag match because the fans changed the direction of Wrestlemania. Because the original plan was The Rock versus Roman, for the head of the table and all that stuff. But the fans were so livid about Cody getting screwed out of his opportunity that WWE wisely decided to change direction. And as I've said before, I think they did a really good job of taking it in that new direction. The writing has been very good. I think they did a great job. But that's why you have Rock initially in a tag match, but who knows what's going to happen on day 2. Jack Harper says, did you ever meet Virgil while he was on the Indies? Sad to hear he passed away. Yeah, I was at shows with him and stuff. It was sad, and at least the show I was on, I think it was just the once I think I crossed paths with Virgil. He seemed like a good dude, and I felt bad because he had his merch table set up and just it wasn't getting any attention at all. I just felt kind of bad. Oh, absolutely. Just Ducky says, I agree. Bloodshed perfectly timed sometimes helps tell and further a story, right? And that's the key if you're going to have somebody bleeding, especially nowadays. See, back in the territory days and before TV was such a huge part of wrestling, you were bleeding all the time because they were different separate shows. You went here one night and you bled. And then you came out and you did the exact same show 2 nights later or the next night, and then you bled again because you were always telling the story within the house. Now that you've got TV and social media and everything, that everybody knows what's going on with the storylines every moment of the day, I think you have to be more careful about when you pull things like blood out of your pocket just to make sure it is impactful. And that was insanely impactful last night. And as I said it, I had said this before a lot of you got in here at the top of the stream. Did you guys see? Did you guys see Becky just absolutely jack Dom with that punch? Holy hell, man! Did she light him up? I gotta think that was worked. Just strictly my guess. I have nothing to back this up other than my own guess of instinct about it. I think Dom told her to light him up. That was that was good. Oh, I think he legit bladed. Yeah, it looked like a blade job. Did Cody blade was a capsule? No, I don't think it was a capsule. I mean, the blood flow, especially from the forehead area, is way different from an actual laceration than it is from what you can do with a capsule in that given moment. I mean, if you're on a movie set and you have a makeup team, of course you can make it look perfect. But to do it in that moment, and you have to remember too, Rock went over and started working Cody more, and he had rubbed his hand through the blood and everything, and the blood was continuing to flow. I think he definitely bladed. Right, exactly. Larry said the same thing, and it just looked like a blade cut. I told you guys I did a feature length movie years ago called One Last Kill, and in it my character, I played a psycho killer who was incarcerated, and he got a piece of blade that he was going to commit some heinous acts with, and because he was psycho, he wanted to show the cameras he was on camera allowing himself before he was executed to unburden himself, and he takes and cuts himself. And I did it for real only because it's almost impossible to mimic the creepiness that is watching blood start to flow from a cut, especially on the forehead. It's just, again, in real time without a makeup team there to create the blood and maintain the blood, it's impossible basically to have it look that good. So I'm pretty sure he bladed. Cody zipped that forehead, yeah. Yep. Yeah, Dom said lay it in. Did he rally? I figured he had to. Because that didn't look like a mistake. It did. You can tell when a punch lands too solid and it wasn't supposed to. You can tell by the way it lands, by the reaction, so on and so forth. Becky put that in there, and she did do a good job. If you watch where that punch hits, because the one thing you don't want to do if you're going to land a real one is don't put it right here. Because when you snap the head, that's when lights go out. So she put it back here. Now back here, it's still going to hurt, but you're going to push the head more than snap the head. So I think it was definitely planned. Jack Harper says, Curtis, when you train guys, what are your tips for developing a good working punch? It's funny, I'm going to make a video about that. I've talked to a guy online. I think I've got a ring. He's got a ring that I can use, and I'm going to go to that ring and make several videos talking about different things about the business and demonstrating certain things about the business. Excuse me. And because I get asked that a lot, punches are at the top of the list. And in my career, punches were a forte because I started boxing when I was 14. Well, even when I wasn't boxing, because I haven't boxed in years. Once I started wrestling, the boxing was over anyway. But hitting the bag and doing boxing workouts has been the cornerstone of my workouts for my whole life. So because of that, I have very good control of my punches. I can throw a punch really, really hard and be really, really safe and miss you. And I mean just barely miss you. So that's how I did it. But if you haven't been somebody who's just been hitting a bag for 50 years, then there are other ways to make your punches look good. Now, I'm going to make a whole video about that, specifically about that. But basically, the big thing with punches is, like anything else in wrestling, you got to remember that speed will cover a lot of mistakes. If you do something fast, and you're not going to fool cameras, but when you're in house shows, when you're in the indies, if you do it fast, you can afford to make a mistake and not be seen. So if I throw a punch and it's boom, I mean, I throw it as fast and as hard as I can, even if I'm this short, which would be a lot, they're not going to see it. It happened too fast. Yeah, Jerry Lawler threw good punches. Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. Brother, he says, last night's Raw was so good. Hands down one of the best in years. I'm going to next week's Raw in Brooklyn. Oh, cool. Then later that week, Hall of Fame and both WrestleMania nights. Very cool. This has been an exciting build-up. It has been a good build-up. It really has. Like I said, I think maybe my thing with the whole Punk, McIntyre, Rollins thing was maybe I had set my sights too high or had my hopes too high. Because I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't think it was as good as everybody else seems to now. The Rock Rhodes thing was amazing. That was just brilliant. Doing good, Marco. Good to see you. Kobe says, what's your favorite What's your workout routine as a wrestler? Well, I'm not sure what you mean, Kobe. Workout how? You mean training away from the ring? Weightlifting, stretching, just the usual weightlifting, stretching, stuff like that. And obviously getting into the ring as often as you can to bump, fall around, run the ropes, just stay comfortable in the ring. And my big thing was always, from the time I was young, it was pointed out to me that in wrestling, the only, neck injuries are what you fear probably more so than any others, because they can just devastate you and they can end your career. And I was told early on that the only defense you really have, or the only thing you can do for your body to try and prevent that from happening, is build up the neck muscles or the trapezius muscles. So as far as towards the wrestling end, my weightlifting always was heavy on trap building, because it does it. It gives you an extra layer of protection. It really helps in not allowing your head to be snapping around too much. I like Corbin. Baron Corbin really grew on me. To the moon. Austin says, Sami Zayn or Braun Breaker to beat Gunther for the title. I like Sami Zayn. What do you guys think? Do you think Sami Zayn would be a good title holder? I'm torn on that. He's certainly good on the mic. We all know that. But is it the type of mic work that lends itself well to, holding one of the major belts? What do you guys think? I don't know. I'm just torn on it. Braun Breaker, I think, without a doubt, is got probably a number of titles in his future. Omega Falcon says it's why the Japanese dojos were crazy for the neck workouts, right? And you see them doing all the neck bridge. Yeah, I was just gonna say those bridges. Yeah. I mean, it's a strong neck, and strong muscles around the neck area provide a huge layer of protection. Sammy then Braun, that would be good, Anbu. Because if nothing else, I do think Sammy, with all he's put into the business, and especially recently, all the pop he's gotten and everything, I think he certainly deserves a chance to take a run with a belt. Lobster says, super off topic, but that t-shirt's legendary, Curtis. Thank you. Lucky Charms, baby. I'm going to get more sugary breakfast cereal t-shirts without a doubt. I'll be looking around. Falcon says, I feel like underdog Sammy, like when he was in NXT, could be fantastic. It'd be interesting to see. I do think definitely he deserves a chance to have a run with the belt and let us all see what he can do. Brother E says, the Punk Drew Seth promo was funny. So many references. Who made you the chosen one? That was a good line. PG brother, great interaction. Not a fan of Punk on commentary, though. Him as special ref would have been better. Yeah, there were definitely good moments in it. And it wasn't something I disliked. I was just shocked to see at least what I've seen, the reaction from people online about it being one of the best segments in Raw history and everything. And it's like, I didn't think it was that good. I didn't think they had that many lines that were home runs. I mean, as I said earlier, Drew's line on Punk was pretty good on the whole straight edge thing. You don't drink, you don't do drugs, yet you're always in rehab. I mean, that was a solid line. Punk had several solid lines. But it seemed like the biggest pops were whenever somebody would mention Chicago, which is, of course, as Mick Foley would say, the cheap pop, and the physical. When Seth took out Drew, that got a huge pop. And you certainly had a live crowd. That crowd was just fire. I mean, they were ready to enjoy anything you threw at them. Punk was really horny last night. Yeah, Jordan. A little bit. Anvu says the hottest take here. I think CM Punk is overrated but great on the mic. I'm not, I'm not a Punk fan, but I try and do my very best when we're discussing wrestling and the wrestlers to throw that out. That means nothing when you're, I don't want that to influence how I feel about him. I think Punk is an amazing worker. Again, I don't care much for the guy, but I think he's an amazing worker. And to his credit, it could be that I'm not as high on that spot they did last night just because my expectations are so high for him. Because he is typically really, phenomenal on the mic. And last night I thought he was good, just not as good as I've seen him in the past. Excuse me. Jack Harper says, you think Punk's bump card is punched considering last 2 matches he got injured? Hard to say. It could just be freak occurrences. But yeah, years and years of taking those bumps, it's going to accumulate. I don't know. I don't know. I hope for his sake it was just, as I said, just coincidence. But who knows? Lobster says, Curtis, do you think that WWE would go back to TV 14 someday? I could see it happening. Yeah, I could see it happening. Depends on ratings and what the WWE feels will do best with their audience. I do think, and they've shown that this year with changing directions on Mania, I do think WWE is now doing a much better job of listening to their audience. And it's easy enough to do nowadays. We have social media. You get instant feedback on everything. And I think they're doing a good job of paying attention to that. That's true, too. Omega says, as much as I'd love to see them go TV 14, there's too much money in sponsorships. TKO will never get up. Unless they felt confident enough that, there's you have to remember, there's a good hunk of sponsors out there who enjoy sponsoring TV 14. It attracts their audience. If you're a sponsor and your product is designed to appeal to young adult males, TV 14 and hand in hand with wrestling would probably be a sweet combination, would be right in the wheelhouse. Mattel is a big one. Yeah, that wouldn't be so good for TV 14. Austin says, Punk roasting The Rock pissed me off. The Rock is great, but The Rock attacking Cody Rhodes pissed me off. What about you? Oh, no. Punk roasting? No, not at all. That didn't. And again, I'm not a Punk fan, but no, everything he did is entirely fair game. That's the business. That doesn't bother me at all. The Rock Rhodes thing I thought was done extremely well. Very well. Anbu says, it's so freaking sad that my 2 favorite wrestlers left us too soon, Bray Wyatt and Eddie Guerrero. Yeah. And I've told you guys, Eddie, I unfortunately, I never got to meet Eddie, but a lot of our young guys on different shows that I was working with at the time, they had crossed paths with Eddie when he was away from the WWE, I think it was for substance abuse. But anyway, he was working the indies. They said, you would not believe that guy. He would, this is a big name in wrestling. And you knew as soon as his suspension was up, he was going right back to the WWE, which he did. And yet they said after shows, he would stay for significant amounts of time after the show was over and go in the ring and work with those guys and teach them and just let them pick his brain on anything they wanted. That's a class act right there. And I never held it against them. All the ex-big names that I worked with, once they were done with their match or their spot or whatever they had to do, and pack their bags. Again, it's not a knock. It's what you would expect. And they would say their goodbyes to everybody, thank everybody, and they'd go. And for Eddie to, again, be of that stature and hang around, what kind of love for the business he has, and what kind of giving person is that, you know? Hey, Mint Man. Well, thank you for the super chat. It says, people keep complaining about the corpse down at the morgue. The dilemma? The corpse is working stiff. And the guy who is most famous for being down at the morgue, of course, Undertaker, was never overly stiff. So that's really, that doesn't even track. That's pretty good, though. I like that. Grimes says, the only thing that pissed me off about Punk talking about Rock is he acts like Rock didn't beat him for the title. Evidently, the WWE mandate to not remember anything longer than 3 months ago still exists. That is kind of silly. And I think we've all seen that, how a lot of times, rather than, a great deal of the time, rather than taking that extra step in addressing something that had happened prior and how it affects the current storyline, they just pretend it didn't happen. Yeah. Yeah. That's and especially nowadays, I mean, fans are so savvy with everything today. You really can't get away with that. They know what went on in the past and they remember. Brother, he says, I mentioned this on one of the shorts, but The Rock is carrying this feud. He has been the reason so many are invested. Roman Reigns is overshadowed by Rock's presence, and it's because Rock is more present. We were just talking about that, Brother. Just where you came in, we were talking about that. Yeah, I think that's legit, what you're saying. And somebody else pointed out, too, and I hadn't thought about that either, is Roman has been winning his matches lately basically strictly with the assistance of his crew, of the bloodline. So it's not making him look exactly super strong as champ. So that is interesting going into Mania to see how that might affect it. Sliz says, speaking of not remembering stuff from long ago, there was something I always appreciated about Bray Wyatt. He always incorporated his past elements of older feuds in his new stuff. Yeah. Everything Bray did was just so good. So good. What an in-ring talent. We saw the work he can do on the mic and in sketch format and everything. Oh, man, that Firefly Funhouse, that was some good stuff. That was creepy. He was perfect in it. Just so sad. Andrew says, hey, did you think more about that Don't Call It comeback for Curtis Candy? Again, it's something that I still might look into. What'll happen is when I go to this ring to record videos for you guys, I've got several different videos I'm going to record that I need to be in a ring for. I'll see how my body reacts. I'll go into the ring. I'll take a couple bumps. I'll run the ropes a little bit. I'll see how my body reacts to it and see if I think there would be the opportunity to do that. Superman says, if you could wrestle one wrestler in a dream match, who would it be and why? I've always thought it would be such an honor to get to wrestle Undertaker, Mark Calloway, to work with him. That would just be off the charts. I just have always been such a big fan and just admire his work so much. Hey, Mistra says, been watching some old WWE as I'm too young to have seen it. On Raw 1977 at the moment, Shawn and Austin Weirdos tag team is hilarious. The gig is they hate each other and it's hilarious. Oh, and there's so many great things from that era, Mistra. The Austin and Angle promos through that era were just hysterical. Those two guys were so good together. And they were both badasses. And I think that's a lot of what made it so much fun, because they were both badasses, but yet so freaking funny. Man, they worked some great stuff, some legendary stuff. Omega Falcon says, I feel Bloodline win night 1, Cody wins night 2, and The Rock pretty much is like, I did everything you could, not even finish The Rock's table scraps or something to set up the feud at SummerSlam. That sounds very plausible, very possible. Yeah, I think there's the one thing I feel most confident about is I do think that the Bloodline wins night one. Now, there are a lot of different ways they can take that in night two, but I think they've almost got to win night one. Jack Harper says, I've seen some of your matches online, and most of the time you seem like a fun-loving character. Did your gimmick ever take a dark turn? Yes and no. That's interesting, Jack, because for me in wrestling, whether I was heel or face, you always try and let at least part of your personality show through. And of course, with the background in stand-up and the fact that I've always enjoyed laughing and humor, and it was always a part of it. We had one time where, and I played a heel a lot, but I would inject humor into even playing a heel. But one promoter, his name was Brian Latham, unfortunately just passed away recently. He asked me at this regular stop we had in Vermont, he said, I want you to play the heel, but he said viciously. He said, just be nasty. And it all made sense for the stories we were telling. And I said, okay. It was the only time in my career that I wouldn't sign autographs. I was absolutely vicious, nasty to those people. And even in that, I would always try and let some humor flow in. The humor would be at their expense at that point. So as far as dark, I don't know if it was dark or just I became, a total asshole. But it's hard to say I went dark because so much of the time humor was involved. Mr. says, Austin rivalries are really good from the stuff I've seen now. He's amazing. He absolutely was amazing. Absolutely. B-Man says, Roman really should be the final boss as he's the undisputed champion. Instead, he just feels like The Rock's lackey. He should be getting the heat so people want to see him lose to Cody. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, I hadn't even thought that through, and now you guys bringing it up, you're right. I mean, The Rock is doing all the heavy lifting in setting up this whole thing at Mania. You guys are right. It's weird. Oh, that happened. Chrome says the two kids in the parking lot story. Yes, that's why that story, Chrome, is so much fun to me, because that was that era when I had been asked to just play the hardcore heel. Because any other time, even if I was playing a heel, I mean, you weren't out there kissing babies and stuff, but I would sign autographs here and there. So that's what set the two kids in the parking lot. That's what set that up so well, is they had never even seen me sign an autograph, because I wouldn't back then. Falcon says, Mick Foley hoping to do a death match with Curtis, possibly doing one more match. Promoters make it happen. Oh, that would be an honor too. But I think Mick's really hurting, which is certainly understandable with the things he put himself through. Chrome says, I just hopped in when I saw you pop up on my timeline. As of tomorrow, I have a few weeks off of college for Easter. Oh, cool. I'm hoping to get a couple streams in at the other channel too, Chrome. So hopefully I'll get to do that so we can all hang out. Sliz says, I think they actually played into the idea of The Rock overshadowing Roman. Whenever Roman's been around, he seemed kind of insecure about it, asking The Rock to acknowledge him and whatnot. Yeah, true. It could be part of the writing. Excuse me. Mistress said, I love heel versus heel stuff. Ruthless aggression, Cena versus kicking your head in Orton would be peak. Yeah. You're watching a really fun era in professional wrestling, Mistra. You really are. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But as I said, there was a lot of great humor back then too. And Austin and Angle were right at the center of a lot of it. Falcon says, what if Roman turns on The Rock and lets his ego get in the way, then loses the one-on-one with Cody because he has to fight him solo, then loses the belt and The Rock gets pissed? That could work. There were even some rumblings when we saw that whole thing with Cody and Paul, and it being so genuine and so real. And I think this one would be a stretch. It would be a long shot. But there were some people conjecturing that maybe Heyman turns his back on Roman. I don't think that's in the works. But that whole very real, very sentimental promo those two guys did on each other did make that seem like, could be. Jack Harper says, had you ever thought of taking the manager role or authority figure role in a promotion after you step back from the ring? No, and it was only because I had so much trouble dealing with not being in the ring anymore. It just got to where I don't get me wrong, I was never one of these people that it's like, okay, now I hate wrestling. Not at all. I always loved it. That was the problem. I loved it so much that I just couldn't envision myself doing something in the business that wasn't inside the ring. And that's why for so long I didn't even watch any wrestling or anything. Anbu says, I am the boogeyman and I'm going to get ya. Mistress says, Austin, Angle, Triple H, Shawn, Cena could probably do fine at stand-up. They had some great sketches. Grimes says, Heyman definitely doing more than getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame WrestleMania weekend. I'm a big Heyman fan. I mean, just like, same with, well, no, I shouldn't say the same. Because Jim Cornette, I'm a big Jim Cornette fan too. But when I say that, I'm a big fan of him and his wrestling knowledge. He knows the business, knows it inside and out, and he's a great storyteller. As a person, I've never been impressed. I just think he seems like a really annoying guy. But then that's not true with Heyman. Heyman is somebody that I would love an opportunity. That would be great to just be able to sit in a room with him for a few hours and pick his brain. Man. Brother E says, it feels like Roman doesn't care anymore. He got his part-time contract and abusing the hell out of it. Rock comes in and reinvents himself in weeks, but Roman barely making a mark at all with his persona. I don't know. I don't know that I would say I feel like he doesn't care anymore. He could be in a situation where when it's time, and it might be now, when it's time to drop the belt, he could very well be in a situation where it's like, okay, I'm good with that. I'm okay with dropping the belt. Yeah, plus too, we got to remember what the guy's been through with leukemia and everything as well. He's got a lot of other things going on. Again, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I could see where he could be at a point where it's like, okay, if it's time for me to drop the belt, then that's okay. I'm good. Yeah, that was good, Dragon. He says, I laughed when Punk made fun of the fact that Vince called Drew the Chosen One during his first run. That was good. Chosen by who? Yeah, that was good. That was a good line. I agree. Just Ducky says, it kind of sucks Solo Sikoa has been kind of pushed aside since this feud. I see him being the one turning on Roman. Jimmy just seems like a follower trying to fit in still. You know what and this is just my opinion, Ducky. I have nothing to base it on. I think Solo's got some big stuff coming in his future. I think he's kind of, you're right, he's kind of been pushed back to the back burner, but I don't think they've forgotten about him. I think they have plans for him. Oh, yeah, it was definitely a hell of a run. Falcon says, well, if Jason Momoa steps away from Aquaman, Drew could effortlessly take the role. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen that clip of him online where a fan yelled to him, hey, I loved you in Aquaman, and he turns around and he goes, it would have made a lot more money if I was in it. Yeah, that was a good line. Oh, well, I gotta go, guys. It's almost 6 o'clock. I got some stuff I gotta take care of. Guys, thank you for joining in on this stream. This was a blast. Now, I stream over at the Spaz Roy's Comedy channel as well, so I kind of go back and forth when I get a chance to stream. The next stream here will probably be some more WWE 2K24. I really want to play some of the game modes in that, and so we can watch Curtis Candy get the shit kicked out of him. So, but along with that, I'll still be doing streams like this as well, especially with WrestleMania coming up. But guys, thanks for hanging out with me. This was an absolute blast. I can sit here and talk wrestling forever, and then I wouldn't get anything else done for all the other channels and everything. But thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I'll talk to y'all as soon as I can.